On today's episode, 3 big things. 1, we recap World's Toughest Mudder 2018 with longer conversations with the World's Toughest Mudder community from the bar crawl. 2, we talk Spartan's 24-hour race in Iceland. And 3, I want to give away 100 World's Toughest Podcast stickers, but I need your help. This is the World's Toughest Podcast. Welcome to the World's Toughest Podcast, where we talk about any obstacle course race you'd like, as long as that's World's Toughest Mudder. Each week we talk to members of the WTM community and share stories of success and failure in the single greatest event in OCR. My name is Will Hicks, and this is the World's Toughest Podcast. Welcome back to World's Toughest Podcast, a proud part of the OCR Report family. My name is Will Hicks. Thank you for listening. Everyone else has moved on, but we are still in Atlanta. We are still traversing the frozen tundra of Fairburn, Georgia, and we will still be talking about this race until next year when we do it all over again. Thank you for listening to the number 1 rated obstacle course racing podcast in the world. I appreciate it. We are number 1 because listeners like you have rated and reviewed the show on Apple Podcasts and Amazon.com. Thank you for those reviews. On today's show, we are going to talk with 6 more members of the World's Toughest Mudder community about World's Toughest 2018. Last episode, we had 16 real short, to-the-point interviews about World's Toughest. We did those at the post-race brunch. These 6 interviews on today's episode took place later that same day at the bar crawl. What a terrible name for an event. Bar crawl. Sounds seedy. We talk about that with J.D. Allen in our interview. The 6 people we talk with: J.D. Allen, Mike Stefano, Katelyn Ritter, Chris Wilkins, Jon Cheek, and Kenny Rotter. You can check the show notes for timestamps and jump straight to their interviews if you would like. Before we start, you can email me at willhicks@gmail.com. You can follow me on Twitter at @TheWillHicks, and you can follow the show on Instagram at World's Toughest Podcast. Be sure to follow the hashtag World's Toughest Podcast to stay up to date with our World's Toughest social media team. They listen to every episode. They post clips. They will let you know when a new episode goes live. Look for that hashtag, World's Toughest Podcast, and then follow our posters. They are great. Keep it up, guys. I see you. And of course, you can be a part of the show by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts or Amazon.com, and I will read it on a future episode. Before we talk news, I'm going to talk a lot about Iceland, and Spartan's 24-hour race. I know it's a little off-brand for us, but like World's Toughest Mudder, it is a difficult 24-hour race. And like World's Toughest Mudder, Ryan Atkins won the whole thing. So if you don't like me talking about it, that is totally fine. Let me know how you feel. Email me at ignoreitsjustspam@juno.com. Let's talk some news. Spartan held their 24-hour Ultra World Championships this weekend near Reykjavik, Iceland. This is the race that Jon Albon had to win with 100 miles to win a $1 million bonus prize, the largest prize in OCR history by far. You will remember this is not just a one-race deal. Spartan CEO Joe DeSena said, any man or woman who wins the Spartan World Championship in Tahoe, the Trifecta Championship in Athens, Greece, and the Ultra Championship in Iceland, he would give $1 million. Albon won the World Championship. Oh, Spartan says, yes, we know you are the 2-time Spartan World Champion, but you need to qualify to run in the Trifecta Championship in Greece. So you need to run one of each of our Spartan races. You need to run a Trifecta this year before you can run in the Trifecta Championship. So Jon runs a Trifecta so he can run in Greece. Then he goes to Greece, he runs those 3 races, and he wins that weekend also. So now he just needs to win Iceland. Well, no, actually, he has to qualify for Iceland also. So John flies to Malaysia to run an Ultra Beast, or an Ultra, rather. They're calling them Ultras now instead of the Ultra Beast. And he wins that. Now, John just needs to do Iceland. Somehow, Spartan turned their 3 races for $1 million series into a 9-race contest. Anyway, John did what he needed to do, and he was ready to race in Iceland for $1 million. Do you guys know how insurance works for these kind of things? Have you ever been to a basketball game and they have a thing at halftime where you make a shot from midcourt and you can win a new car? They'll pull one guy out of the audience. He has to shoot from the half-court line, and he can win a car. Your local basketball team did not buy that car to give away. They bought an insurance policy for $1,000 or something from a company that specializes in this kind of thing. So if you miss a shot, the insurance company makes $1,000. But if you make the shot, the insurance company buys you the car, and your local Washington Generals are only out the $1,000 instead of the full price of the car. So that's what Spartan did. They bought an insurance policy so that in case Albon did win the $1 million, Spartan wouldn't take that full hit. Somehow, by the time Iceland rolled around, Spartan had lost the insurance policy, and they were on the line for the full $1 million. Now, first of all, that should never have happened. Somehow, someone dropped some ball somewhere. You don't just the whole reason you have that insurance policy is because of Iceland. So for them to get to Iceland and be like, "Oh, we don't have an insurance policy. We're on the hook for the whole thing." Someone messed up somewhere. But anyway, whatever happened, now Spartan's on the hook for the whole thing, and Joe DeSena is sweating it. Okay, except here's the thing. That's the official line, right? We don't have insurance. This is all coming out of Joe's pocket. Joe DeSena is not going to pay Jon Albon $1 million out of his own pocket. That's a great story. It's a great storyline. And maybe I am just skeptical, but I have a lot of confidence in Joe DeSena's ability as a showman, and I have even more confidence in his ability as a businessman. Joe is happy either way. Joe's not sweating anything. If Albon wins the $1 million, Jon Albon and Spartan Race are on the cover of magazines in every grocery store in the US and the UK for the next year. Sports Illustrated and Outside Magazine are going to do 4-page spreads on Jon Albon. If Albon wins, Joe would happily pay $1 million for that kind of coverage. Say Jon doesn't win the $1 million, then Joe gets to wipe the sweat off his brow and act like he's relieved. Woo, almost lost $1 million. Joe DeSena is no dummy. He wants someone to win that $1 million. He will act like he doesn't, because that's how you should act. Oh, I don't want to lose $1 million. He's not losing $1 million. He is investing $1 million. And when he does finally give away that $1 million prize, it will pay off for him in spades. And he knows it. Here's how you know I am right. Here's how you know Joe really wants to give away that money. Next year, they're going to do it all over again. And Joe will act like he doesn't want to give away the money, but he wants to give away the money. He wants to give away the $1 million. I don't think it matters to Joe whether it's Jon Albon or Ryan Atkins or someone else that wins it. That's not totally true. Joe would prefer it was someone who's like 100% hardcore Spartan only, like Aru, so like Kevin Gelati. But that's not going to happen. It'll either be Atkins or Albon, or maybe one of the other 100-mile World's Toughest Mudder guys like Robert Killian or Trevor Psychos or Christopher Mendoza. So that was the situation going in. A few laps into the race, it was going pretty well for Albon. He and Atkins were running together. They were right on pace for about 100 miles. It's still early in the race, but Joe is sweating. And I say that with air quotes. He was sweating. I don't believe it for a second. Joe wants to give away the money. But, so, Albon's on track for it. Joe made an offer to Ryan Atkins and Jon Albon. He said, forget the 100 miles for $1 million. Forget the 100 for $1 million. I will give you $50,000 for the first one to hit 90 miles. You need to decide by midnight. So the offer was actually more convoluted than that, but that's what it boiled down to. $50,000 for 90 miles if we can take the $1 million off the table. So Jon Albon did not go through this whole rigmarole for a lousy $50,000. Albon was there to race for $1 million or not at all. But here's the thing. He figured out pretty soon after Joe made that offer that he wasn't going to be able to make the 100 miles. No 100 miles, no $1 million. So Albon voluntarily pulled himself out of the race at about the 10-hour mark. So with his main competition out of the running, Ryan Atkins did what Ryan Atkins does, and he won the thing. He tried for 90 miles, but he did not complete that 90 for the $50,000 bonus. He finished in first place with 83 miles en route to his 7th 24-hour race world championship and his second 24-hour world championship in 4 weeks. 7 world championships at 24-hour races. 7, you say. What were the first 6? I'm glad you asked. Ryan Atkins has won World's Toughest Mudder every year for the past 6 years in every category imaginable. It's not 100% true. Atkins has won the race in the categories he is eligible to win the race in. Ray Coble has the other division locked down. It's also Atkins' second major win in less than a month. Exactly 4 weeks before Iceland, Atkins' team, named Lindsay's Angels, won the relay team category at World's Toughest Mudder with 80 miles. So, even though Atkins did not reach 90 miles for the $50,000, Joe DeCinna gave him a $10,000 bonus because he was so impressed with Atkins' performance. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if that $10,000 actually was out of Joe's pocket. The full men's podium included, in first, Ryan Atkins of Canada with 83 miles. In second, Radek Pador of the Czech Republic with 76 miles. In third, Sigurjón Emir Sturluson of Iceland with 70 miles. In fourth, Joshua Fiore of the U.S. with 70 miles. Josh was the defending champion, had a strong fourth place this year. And in fifth, Glenn Race of the USA with 63 miles. For the women. When I saw the names of the women on the podium, I started Googling them, a lot of international names. The first article on the first page of Google with the names of the female winners, female podium, our own Heather Bodie with her Elite Preview article for the OCR report. She nailed it. Well done, Heather. You can read that article at theocrreport.com. Here is the full podium for the women. In first, Janka Popova of Slovakia with 56 miles. In second, Morgan Mckay of Canada with 56 miles. She's the defending champion. In third, Annette Sand of Norway with 56 miles. In fourth, Ina Kovalenko of the Ukraine with 50 miles. And in fifth, Katrin Sigrun Thomasdottir with 50 miles. This year's second place woman and last year's first place woman is no stranger to us here at the show, Morgan Mckay. We are big fans of Morgan here. Like Joshua Fiore on the men's side, Morgan was defending her title this year. We talked with Morgan on the show a few weeks ago, and she talked about the year she's had so far in 2018.
I just had a ton of personal and family issues going on, and just my mental, just mentally I wasn't able to put in that hard training or just really put in any training.
Morgan ended up finishing in second place. So with her first place last year and her second place this year, Morgan has staked her claim as this being her race. Congratulations, Morgan. Okay, kids in the car. Can you earmuff it for me?
Can you earmuff it for me?
I said kids. Can you earmuff it for me?
Can you earmuff it for me?
All right, it's just us adults here. After finishing in second, Morgan decided to take in some of the sights of Iceland. Now, when I say Iceland tourism, what do you think of? Maybe you think of the Northern Lights. And maybe you think of hiking to glaciers or beautiful ice waterfalls. Maybe when you think of Iceland tourism, you think you want to visit the Bjork Museum.
Would you like to hold my invisible baby?
Not Morgan Mckay. Where does Morgan Mckay go when she is a tourist in Iceland?
So it's our last day in Iceland, and this is where we're going. Yeah, that's right. Penis Museum. You guys excited? Woo!
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's right.
Are you guys excited?
You guys excited? Woo!
Morgan, where are you guys going on your last day in Iceland?
Yeah, that's right. Penis Museum.
So, next time you're in Iceland and you need something to do, Morgan, where would you recommend everyone goes to?
Yeah, that's right. Penis Museum.
Don't send me your jokes. Save them. I can already hear Keith Allen working. I don't want to hear how it's a nice museum, but it's hard to find when it's cold. That's not funny. Save your jokes about how the employees seemed a little testy. I am not interested in hearing about the other museums in town and how there was a vast deferens. Stop it. I'm not going to have those jokes on my show. It's time to play You're So Smart.
Hey baby, you're so smart. Look at what you're doing now.
Last week we asked the question, who are the only two women with more podiums than Allison Ty? And how many podiums does each woman have? Allison has 3 podiums. The correct answer is Amelia Boone and Deanna Blegg. They both have 4. This was tricky because one of Deanna's podiums came as part of a team in 2014. Her team finished in second behind Hunter McIntyre's first place team, Team Wolfpack. Answering our question correctly this week were John Hobson and Travis Langness. Congratulations, John and Travis. You're so smart.
Hey baby, you're so smart. Look at what you're doing now.
This week's question is hard. Who are the 5 World's Toughest Mudder podium athletes who have won a non-World's Toughest Mudder 24-hour OCR race? I've already given you the first 2 in this episode. I will give them to you now. Ryan Atkins has won World's Toughest Mudder 6 times, and he has won Spartan's 24-hour World Championship. That's a gimme. The other one, Morgan Mckay, finished 3rd at World's Toughest 2016, and she won Spartan's Ultra Championship last year. Who are the other 3 athletes to finish on a World's Toughest Mudder podium, that means top 3, and win a different 24-hour OCR race? Send your answers to worldstoughestpodcast@gmail.com with "so smart" in the subject line. I've given you 2 of the 5. I honestly gave you the 2 easy ones. If you get the other 3 names all correct, you will win a free shout-out on the next episode. Good luck. And that has been You're So Smart.
Hey baby, you're so smart. Look at what you're doing now.
I want to give away 100 World's Toughest Podcast stickers. Do you want one of them? You cannot buy these stickers anywhere. Seriously, no hype. The only way you can get one of these stickers is if I give you one personally. That is the truth. If you want one of the 100 stickers, you need to do 2 things. 1, text the word tough to the number 22828. That will enter you on the list. 2, you need to go to mudrunguide.com and vote for Overcome and Run as Best OCR Podcast. Overcome and Run as Best OCR Podcast. Voting closes on December 19th. You must text TOUGH to the number 22828 no later than 11:59 p.m. Pacific on December 18th to be eligible. Text TOUGH to the number 22828. Follow the directions when you text to join our list. And Overcome and Run must win the best OCR podcast from Mud Run Guide. Let me back up. The voting has opened in Mud Run Guide's Best of OCR Awards. You can go to mudrunguide.com, mudrunguide.com right now and vote. We, World's Toughest Podcast, are not running this year. Our name is on the ballot, and it is an honor. We're very honored, very grateful, but we are not running. We are not in contention. Please do not vote for us. Not a joke, not a bit. I want you to vote for Overcome and Run as Best OCR Podcast. Heather Bodie is doing amazing work over there on her show. She talked with Trevor Psychos first after he ran 219 miles across Scotland. She had the first interview with Aaron Rost up online after Aaron finished in second at World's Toughest Mudder this year. Vote for Overcome and Run as Best OCR Podcast. I'm not going to tell you how to vote in all the categories, except for one other one. In Best OCR Photographer, you should vote for Jack Goris. Jack has taken amazing pictures for us all year long. He was in Iceland this weekend taking pictures for the OCR Report. You can see those pictures. They're online now at the OCR Report Facebook page. They are amazing. Best OCR Photographer, Jack Goris, Goras. So Best Podcast, Overcome and Run. Best OCR Photographer, Jack Goris. And remember, if Overcome and Run wins Best OCR Podcast, we will give away 100 World's Toughest Podcast stickers. If you want a shot at winning one of them, totally free, text the word tough to the number 22828. Do you really want a sticker? Overcome and Run has to win. Tell your mom to vote. Tell your kids to vote. If Overcome and Run does not win, this is all for naught. No stickers for anyone. And they're not rolling over till next year like they are for our other contest. I'll keep the stickers. I don't care. This is a lot like Joe DeSena and his $1 million. I act like I don't want to, but I would love to give away 100 stickers. So really, if our 100 stickers are the same as his $1 million, then how much is each sticker worth?
Hey baby, you're so smart. Look at what you're doing now.
Can we talk about snubs for the Mud Run Guide Awards? I'm sure there are several, but let me talk about one in particular. Obstacle Running Adventures, hosted by Mike Stefano and Katelyn Ritter, was not nominated and should have been nominated, especially when there are podcasts on there that I have never heard of. There are 2 podcasts on the ballot that aren't even OCR podcasts. They should not be on the ballot. Here is how I would define an obstacle course racing podcast. It is a podcast that is about obstacle course racing. At least 2 of these nominated podcasts are not about OCR at all. The only connection to OCR is that the host is an active member of the OCR community. They are Spartan Up and Dirt in Your Skirt. And I love Joe DeSena. I have a great relationship with Margaret Schlachter. But if their non-OCR podcasts are on the ballot, then Matt B. Davis's Atlanta podcast should be also. But Obstacle Running Adventures is not on the ballot, and they should have been. I can't speak for Mike and Katelyn, but I can speak for World's Toughest Podcast. Vote for Overcome and Run. If Overcome and Run wins Best OCR Podcast, you could win one of 100 World's Toughest Podcast stickers I am giving away. Vote at mudrunguide.com and then text TOUGH to the number 22828. Speaking of other podcasts, have you heard about the newest OCR podcast debuting in 2019? Coming soon, the OCR Report podcast. Subscribe now. From the home of World's Toughest Podcast, Overcome and Run, and Obstacle Running Adventures, comes the first podcast to focus exclusively on the elite racing sport of obstacle course racing. Who won? Who lost? And what does that mean for next week's race? Coming in 2019, the OCR Report podcast. Subscribe now and tell your friends. You can subscribe now on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Why does the world need another OCR podcast? It's a running joke how many OCR podcasts there are, right? But with all those podcasts, the OCR report will be the only one focused on the sport of OCR, exclusively on the sport. That's all we care about on that podcast. Who won the race? Why did they win? Who was supposed to win? Who is the best racer in the world right now? Who's having a disappointing year? What should I watch for at the race this weekend? This is a podcast I have wanted to listen to for years, but it did not exist. So we are going to create it so I can listen later. Very excited about it. You will hear from myself, from Heather of Overcome and Run, and from Mike and Katelyn of Obstacle Running Adventures, as well as Jack Bauer, the recognized expert in all things related to OCR statistics and race results. It will be going live in early 2019, so go subscribe now so you do not miss an episode. Also, we already have a review up for the podcast. Thank you, Tristan V8, but you don't even know if the show is going to be good. I mean, I guess you can leave a review for the trailer you just heard, but more important than reviews, go subscribe right now. The OCR Report podcast. Actually, two things. Go subscribe in your podcast player and then text the word tough to the number 22828. That will subscribe you. Follow the directions. When it'll text you back and say, enter your email address. That will subscribe you to our World's Toughest email list. And when episode 1 goes live, we will let you know. You email subscribers know first. I've had a couple people ask me if World's Toughest Podcast is going away because of the OCR report. And the answer to that is negative, Ghost Rider.
Negative, Ghost Rider. The pattern is full.
World's Toughest Podcast is like my baby, except it doesn't wake me up in the middle of the night and it doesn't poop. We have built World's Toughest Podcast from nothing over the last 2 years into the number one podcast in obstacle course racing, and we are not going anywhere. Let's read some iTunes reviews.
5 stars.
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 Our first review comes from Amazon. If you don't have an iOS device or an Apple device, or even if you do, you can leave a review on Amazon.com. From Amazon, Ulu Family writes, love it. 5 stars. I have enjoyed the podcast so much. Recent episodes that gave tips on upcoming World's Toughest Mudder were intriguing to say the least. I have enjoyed winners' interviews, but also benefit from some of the other ones, like me, who are just out there to have a good time and do our best, even if we are not the elite. Keep up the awesome content and look forward to bumping into you in Atlanta. In Swanson. Thank you, in Swanson. That is Nate Swanson. Yeah, I have to keep that balance between the elites who are great and motivating for something to aspire to, and the regular guys who are motivating from a, if that regular guy can do it, there is no reason I can't do it point of view. I want them both. I need them both on the show. Nate says he looks forward to bumping into me in Atlanta. Nate and I bumped into each other hundreds of times in Atlanta out on the course as we were on the same team. Nate is one of my best longtime friends. Thank you, Nate, for that review. Our next review comes from the U.S. From the U.S., GT2982A writes, 100th episode review, 5 stars. Congratulations on 100 episodes and look forward to the next 100. My go-to podcast for TM news and interviews. Thank you, GT. Very proud of the 100 episodes. We got a lot of reviews as we cross that milestone. I appreciate that. I would love to hit 150 reviews before we hit 150 episodes. Pick me up here, fellas, ladies. Thank you, GT, for leaving that review. Our last review comes from iTicked. iTicked writes, inspirational, 5 stars. The best OCR podcast out there. I always thought WTM was an unattainable dream event, but when it moved to Atlanta, it became attainable. From Kentucky. though it still seemed impossible. This podcast has changed that. You have inspired me to just sign up and go for it. And more importantly, you've convinced my wife this is a good idea. Thanks for the inspiration and nonstop WTM info. I ticked, you are welcome. That's how I got started at World's Toughest Mudder. I did Tough Mudder, regular Tough Mudders for years. And I knew World's Toughest Mudder was out there, and I always kind of thought of it like, oh, maybe someday, maybe not this year, but next year. That's when I'll do it. I'll train hard this year, get ready, and I'll do it next year. And eventually, I just signed up and went for it. The regular Tough Mudder was like my home Tough Mudder was in March each year. And one year, I got home from the weekend, and I said, you know what? I'm doing it. I'm going to sign up, and I'm not ready, but I'm going to commit, and I'm going to get ready. And that was 2015, and I've been back every year since then. I didn't run last year. I was hurt. Talked about that. But good for you, I ticked. I hope it goes well for you. You got the motivation right now. Sign up. In fact, everybody. Like, it's the end of the year. You're like, I need some motivation for the next year to stay, my fitness goals. New year, new you. Sign up for World's Toughest Mudder. Put the money on the table and see what happens. I ticked. I am very happy for you. I hope it goes well. And Mrs. I ticked, I am glad to hear you are on board. Your husband is not going to die. Probably. Both of you, be sure to track me down in Atlanta and say hi. That's one of the things about hearing stories from normal people that run World's Toughest. Like we talked about a couple reviews ago. Well, if that guy can do it, why not me? And you're totally right. Yes, it is hard, and yes, you will be in pain, and yes, you will want to quit, but you will not quit, because regular people just like you run this race and finish this race every single year, and you can too, I ticked. Thank you for the review and the kind words. If you'd like to be a part of the show, like Nate Swanson, GT2982A, and I Ticked, you can leave a review on iTunes also. Maybe you don't want to be a part of the show. Maybe you just want me to read your Christmas greetings to your family. Maybe you screwed up and you can't afford flowers and you want me to tell her sorry for you. Maybe your kids aren't pulling their weight with the chores at home and they need to hear it from me this time. Leave me a review on Apple Podcasts, and I will read it for you. It doesn't matter to me, as long as you tie the show in somehow. You can leave that note/review by opening the Purple Podcast app on your iOS device, your iPhone or your iPad, and searching for World's Toughest Podcasts. Click our logo, and then scroll down to click Write a Review. If Amazon works better for you, go to Amazon.com and search for World's Toughest Podcasts. Click our logo, and then click Write a Customer Review. And I will read it on a future episode. Thank you for making us the #1 rated OCR podcast in the world for 2018, according to Apple and Amazon.com. Our guests on this episode are J.D. Allen, Mike Stefano, Katelyn Ritter, Chris Wilkins, Jon Cheek, and Kenny Rotter. I talked with each of them on Monday night of World's Toughest Mudder weekend at the Bar Crawl. The race starts at noon on Saturday, goes till noon on Sunday. Then everyone sleeps, they go home Sunday night. Then everyone comes to the Champions Brunch on Monday morning. Monday night is the last event of the weekend, the Bar Crawl. This is similar to last week's episode in that I just took my microphone with the plan of let's see what happens. Unlike the quick 2 or 3 minute interviews we did last week with tons of people, I was able to have much longer conversations about the race and about what each athlete went through. Each one of these people are normal people, just like you and me, that did something extraordinary by running World's Toughest Mudder. It's time to talk at the Bar Crawl. Let's go to the... By the way, Bar Crawl is such a terrible... It just sounds sketchy, doesn't it? Hey, are you going to the Bar Crawl? We really need to change that name, guys. It's time to talk at the Bar Crawl. Let's go to the phones.
Hello?
JD Allen.
Oh, you want to hold this? Okay.
Do I have to hold it for you?
Yes.
JD Allen, we're at the bar crawl after World's Toughest Mudder.
Yeah, we're at Krog Street Market in Atlanta.
So this is my first bar crawl. What should I know?
That this isn't your typical bar crawl. It's called a bar crawl because everybody is crawling after World's Toughest Mudder. A bar crawl usually goes from place to place, but this one just stays right here.
How was your race?
It was really hard. I'm really happy with how it went. It was cold. The terrain was tough because it was so sloggy and mushy and wet. And there's hills, unpredictable hills. It was really hard, and I'm happy with how I did.
How'd you do?
Pardon?
How did you do?
I got 50 miles. It took me, 25 hours and 15 minutes to get it. So really, that's just like what? I don't know. I'm not going to do the math to see how fast I was moving.
2 miles an hour-ish?
Right. I got 50 miles. That's what I've gotten the last 3 years. I've gotten 50 miles. Completely different terrains, completely different kinds of training for it, and still ended up with 50 miles.
How would you compare 50 miles in Atlanta to 50 miles in Vegas?
It's more closely compares to last year in Vegas. It was much, much harder than 2015 and 2016 in Vegas. It's completely different kind of race than in Vegas. Lots wetter. The footing in Vegas was always pretty sure, right? If you put your foot down, you knew where it was going. It was just going to stay there. And in here with the mud, it was sliding all over the place. I wore shoes with cleats that got uncomfortable, so I changed into a pair of Hokas that had more padding, and those were comfortable to run in, but they weren't holding the mud at all. And my ankles were twisting all over the place. And so I changed back to my other Hokas, the Evo Jaws. Is that how you say it? And that held the grip better. But then my feet started to get cold again, and were uncomfortable.
That's a really good point about the footing, how sloppy everything was. And it's going to get lost because of how cold it was. Everyone's going to remember how cold it was. Not as many people right now are talking about how there were parts going down hills. It was super sketchy. You could easily roll an ankle or injure a race just going down a hill.
Yeah, all the stabilizing muscles from like the knee down are all really sore today. When I woke up, I felt like I had sprained both my ankles. And maybe I did sprain my left, but I think that mostly it is just the stabilizing on the mud that they're really sore.
What did you think of the obstacles?
They're awesome. I stopped being able to do them at some point. But I like Twin Peaks. I like the change they made to it so that more people could do it more times. I think if they left it how it was during obstacle testing where you had to actually jump across, I think that people could have done it once. And then everybody else would be going in the water. The way that it was, you could do it several times before you started going in the water.
It was actually fun, that stretch across.
Yeah.
I mean, the stretch kind of felt good.
And it made you feel like you were doing something, right? Yeah, it was cool.
Did you do the stacks?
I did not do stacks, and I regret it today. I had the excuse throughout the night that I wasn't doing it because it was cold and I didn't want to get in the water. And I even thought, I'm from Atlanta, so my wife and son were there, my 9-year-old son. And in my mind, I was thinking, because they were popping up all over the course of different obstacles. I had no idea where they were at the time. But I was thinking that if they are there at stacks when I get there, which was my last lap, so it was daylight and everything, if I get there and my son Milo wants me to do it, I'll ask him, do you want me to do it? And if he said yes, I would have done it.
Let's put it on the kid.
Right, exactly. I say that I would have done that, right? But I really think I would have. And watching the videos today of people jumping, I wish I would have. I jumped every time that I had the chance in Vegas off the cliff. Part of it was just not wanting to be cold again. But part of it was just the fear. I didn't want to do all that work to climb to the top. What was it? It's 4 shipping containers. Each shipping container is 8.5 feet high. So whatever that math is, 32, 34, whatever, something like that. And then the platform on top, that's a long ways down. But it would have been hard work to get up there And I could just imagine me just standing there with the wind blowing on me, getting colder and colder while I get psyched up to jump. It took me 5 minutes practically every time I jumped from the cliff. So I think it would have been the same thing there. And I got to do that. I got to get myself psyched. People say, just walk right out there. But that's not how I do it.
I agree 100%. I wish I had jumped. I didn't. I could have. Mm-hmm. And I have several legitimate, good reasons for why I didn't, right? But they're all just, they're reasons, but they're excuses, right? If you wanted to do it, you would do it. And I regret not doing it.
Yeah. And if they have the same obstacle next year, I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to race next. Are you going to race next year?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. I'll be here because I'm from Atlanta. I'll be pit crewing. I'll be volunteering or something. If my wife heard me say that, she'd tell you, yeah, he's definitely going to be running. And maybe I will.
You know, you're not the first person to tell me, like, if it's in Atlanta next year, which we know it is now, that they're not super excited about it. Chris Mendoza, who won the race, is like, he's like, ask me later, but right now I'm like, I don't want to do that again.
Because of the cold?
Because of the cold, yeah.
Yeah, it was brutal.
And it's going to be a week later next year.
Yeah. But
is that when it gets warm in Atlanta, like late November?
My birthday is tomorrow. I'll be 49.
Happy birthday.
And I've been outside with my kids on my birthday at the playground in shorts and a T-shirt, so mid-70s. So you don't know. It was just we hit a cold snap this year.
What was the worst part of the race for you?
The cold. I say I never want to be that cold again. I had great gear from Wetsuit Warehouse. I had the Hyperflex Viral full wetsuit with the sealed seams, and I had a Hyperflex 50/50 Viral top. And that was great up until 42 degrees or so. And after that, I actually pulled on my 15-year-old shorty wetsuit that I got from Paul Midas about 3 years ago when I was heading out to my first World's Toughest. And again, I brought it as an afterthought, but I had my pit crew pull it out of my gear. I put that on top of everything else I was wearing, and I think that saved me. So I think I need to talk to the experts there at Wetsuit Warehouse and see what are we supposed to do when the temperature drops below 40 and we're still getting out of the water all the time.
Because I think it's going to happen again next year. I mean, we're all hope like, oh, it'll be warm next year. It's probably not going to be.
Yeah, right. I was wearing, can I tell you what I was wearing? I was wearing fleece-lined tights, fleece-lined top. I was wearing the full Viral Hyperflex wetsuit. I was wearing the Viral 50/50 wetsuit top over top. Then had a shorty wetsuit on and had two windbreakers on and two neoprene beanies. I wore the Blegmets at first, but then they filled with mud. But I think that may have been user error. So then I have a pair, for my first World's Toughest Mudder, I have a pair of scuba gloves, Kevlar coated scuba gloves, and that's what I wore most of the time. And they would get cold. I got cold during pit stops.
Pit stops were the worst.
Yeah, so I had to remind myself, I'd be cold, and I'm like, I don't want to go out there. Once I figured out what was going on, I just had to remind myself, once I start moving again, I'll be warm, I'll be okay. My shoes feel cold right now, but they'll be okay. My gloves are cold, but they'll warm up once I start moving. So just had to keep moving.
I wasn't crazy about it at first, but having that hill at the very beginning, because the pit was where you're right. You would come into the pit and you're warm, and then you sit there for 10, 15 minutes, and all of a sudden, I was in my pit area, and they handed me some Gatorade, and everything is cold. It's in the middle. It's like 2 a.m, and I just wanted some Gatorade. I was thirsty, like stalled, whatever, and I drank like maybe 4 ounces, and I immediately started shivering, just immediately. So we're like, we got to get out of here. We got to get out of here. The pit is always like a time sink, but it's like almost dangerous when you got to get out and get warm again.
I see John Copper just walked up over there. I don't know at what point in the night when I was freezing. I think that's when I was coming up the long hill leading up to Ladder to Hell, and he was standing at the top playing his bagpipes, and I got choked up so much during that race. It's different having my family there and having my son there. So that added to it a little bit, added to the emotion. But yeah, you get exhausted and things just set you off. And him standing up at the top of of that hill playing the bagpipes. My mom's Scottish, so it just made me think of my mom. Who's still with us. That's not why I got emotional, but
Was your son in the pit area with you all night?
Yes. Well, they left for about 3 or 4 hours. Well, they left for a little bit longer. My wife, and Milo, who's 9, and Jackson Davis, who's also 9, Matt's son, they went back to a hotel about 20 minutes away. And they did that overnight, and then they came back in the morning. And I was really happy that they were there. I was really happy that they could leave, too, that they had that option. They would have been an hour drive back home, so we got that hotel that was close by. And it worked out that Jackson could come with them, too, so that was fun.
What was the best part of the race for you?
Having my family there, which is an opportunity I wouldn't have had outside of Atlanta because we don't really travel like that. It really made it special. I loved having my wife there. I loved, on Sunday night being able to crawl in bed next to my wife rather than laying in a bed in my hotel room just thinking about my wife. So all those things were great. It was great to share that experience. The people, other than my family, there is awesome. It's great seeing you on the course. And it's funny because we're all bundled up and you don't recognize someone, then you look at them and then you recognize their face, recognize their eyes, or for you, like recognize your voice. You're like, oh my gosh. You end up that you've been standing next to this person you talk to at least on Facebook all the time. And it warms you, right?
So next year, if it's exactly the same as it was this year, temperature-wise, difficulty-wise, pit crew or running?
I've drank a half glass of cider already, which is a lot for me.
Is that influencing the decision?
Yeah, so I think that I'll run. And like I said, if my wife's sitting here, she'd grab the microphone and say, he's going to run. Actually, she has a much nicer, smoother, silkier voice than that. So that wasn't a good imitation of her.
JD, any last thoughts on the World's Toughest Mudder?
It was a great experience. If you haven't done it, even if it's Atlanta and you're hearing all these miserable things, you should come do it. And seriously, it might be on a different show, a different podcast, but I'm going to tell you what you need to do to stay warm, okay? I'm going to talk to the people at Wetsuit Warehouse. I'll do the research and see what do we do when the temperature drops below 40.
You can promote your other work. I don't care where it is. What are you doing? Go ahead, plug it.
Well, I do a lot of stuff with Matt for Obstacle Racing Media, right? Or is it Obstacle Course Racing Media? No, it's Obstacle Racing Media. I get those mixed up, but I think that they're the same thing. I'm not sure. No, it's Obstacle Racing Media. Matt is one of my best friends, and I do a lot of stuff for him. I write for him. I make videos for him. He got me hooked up with Wetsuit Warehouse, who has great stuff. You can get a discount code at Obstacle Racing Media. So go to the webpage or the Facebook page. If you don't know what it is, just send Matt B. Davis a text message, and he'll send you back the code.
I'm a big fan of Wetsuit Warehouse. I bought 2 wetsuits from them. They have some wetsuit lube I bought. It's basically just like a lubricant. I don't know if it helps or not.
You know what I didn't? I'm sorry to interrupt you. I swear by Gurney Goo. I tell everybody to use Gurney Goo. I had 2 full tubes of Gurney Goo with me. When I put my wetsuit on, I did not put on any Gurney Goo. I have rash on my inner thigh, baby, and on my butt. I have a rash. I have a rash behind my knee and behind my neck. And my wetsuits were incredibly comfortable, but you have to put a little bit of something on. And for some reason, I didn't.
Yeah, they're not designed for 24 hours of running, not even the water. You're not even in the ocean or scuba diving or anything. They're not designed for that.
I've never got any kind of rash before from my wetsuits. And it's because I've always used the Gurney Goo.
Do you wear any compression gear between your skin and the wetsuit?
Yes. Yeah. So I was wearing, what's it called? Fleece-lined compression gear. Also available at Wetsuit Warehouse.
You had a good point about people who've never been to World's Toughest hearing about Atlanta. It's going to be back in Atlanta next year and being scared off. I think you're right. They know it's going to be cold. They have a heads up. Just get ready for it and show up anyway.
Yep. Yeah, you can make it through, and you can race hard and you can challenge yourself. It's a big challenge. Vegas was hard. They made Vegas hard. And it's cool being in Las Vegas, but Atlanta's all right, and there's a lot of things to do in Atlanta, and it's good. The course is going to challenge you. If you want to push yourself, the cold is part of it. You know, you can't say that you're tough, that you're a tough mudder, and certainly not a world's toughest mudder if you're going to not want to do it because of the cold.
JD Allen, thanks much.
You're welcome. Thanks for the opportunity.
That's a great point you had at the end. That's a great point. Mike Stefano, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Mike, this is your first World's Toughest Mudder as a participant.
Yep.
I see you're wearing a brown bib.
I am.
How was your race?
Well, I earned this beautiful bad boy, so evidently it went pretty well. The course was quite literally freezing cold, very wet, but I was stupid enough to keep going out for more and more laps, and somehow I got 50.
You say stupid enough, but you're probably happy now.
I'm very happy now, yeah. Still can't feel 4 of my fingers, but that'll come back eventually, I think.
And I'm sure you've heard 50 miles on that course last night was not a regular 50 miles.
No, yeah, I have heard that, and that has me a little bit more excited too, but part of me is kind of going back and forth with that too, because they closed down a lot of the obstacles I was having trouble with because it was so cold. So maybe that ended up playing to my strengths too, where I'm kind of a polar bear, so I just toughened out all that freezing cold temperatures, whereas I was able to skip that lumberjacked, skid marked and T-boned. And those back-to-back were really wearing me out. So I think that helped me a little bit too.
That was the hardest, physically, that was the hardest part of the course. Those 3 obstacles, bam, 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 right in a row.
Definitely.
And usually the cold is like not your friend, but it got so cold that they closed those obstacles, and that was the best thing that happened.
Yeah, absolutely. But the mud definitely was tricky too, because as everyone was saying, you can't really run and heat yourself up. So, because you were slipping and sliding everywhere, especially, I'm sure you know the part I'm talking about with the fence. I was grabbing on that fence for dear life and sliding this way, trying to go that way, and that made it pretty difficult.
There were a couple of different times. One time you were going uphill, and you had to kind of grab a fence right after Mud Mile.
Yep.
Another time you were going downhill, and I'm trying to remember what obstacle that was right after.
There was a wicked steep downhill, which was after Kiss of Mud, and that's where I was going like from tree to tree trying to hold on to stuff, because as your legs get more tired, you're more likely to slip, fall, and just go all the way down, land in that like little river thing. So what happened with me was I grabbed onto a tree, and a branch like brushed against my eyeball and left mud in my eye. So I went the rest of it. It was towards the end, but right after that, I'm like, I need to go to medical. They rinsed it out, and it was good as new and went right back out on the course, but did not feel very good.
I heard you went to medical twice?
Yes. The second time was when my hands were about twice the size. I was kind of freaking out because I first noticed it when I was doing Happy Ending. And I love slip walls. I love kind of going up those things. And I peeled back my Bleg mitts and saw that my knuckles were really, really huge. And I was super worried because I didn't know if it was like, hypernatremia, this or that, with all these things going in my mind. And I'm like, I need to go to medical and have that checked out. And that's like the one time where it really started to get emotional, and I could really feel all the miles catching up to me, because I would have been fine with 35. That was my goal. But at 40, and I knew I had plenty of time for one more lap. 45, it's only one more lap to get 50. So I got pretty emotional that I was cutting it that close. But I have the brown bib, so I made it through.
Did you wear your bare hands under the Bleg mitts?
I did, yeah.
All 24 hours?
Yes.
How'd that go?
Well, back to not feeling my fingers, not so well, I guess. But I toughened it out somehow. I think it was mostly mental, too. I just turned off a big part of my brain that realized it's not a good idea to go back out there. I just turned that off and kept chugging along and kept pit times really short.
Okay, so I'm investigating this glove thing.
Yes.
I wore a pair of gardening gloves underneath my Bleg mitts.
Yep.
And I think I lost some grip strength or some grip ability because of the gloves. I lost some grip because of it.
Yep.
But I feel like my hands lasted a lot longer because of that.
In hindsight, I definitely would have liked to do that. I bought those silver gloves. I don't know if you saw them. They were like my Michael Jackson gloves. I figured
very
that'd be
attractive.
Great. I know. I wore them for the sprint lap, but I think I needed a large, and all they had were mediums, so they just barely fit in the beginning. And I knew my hands would swell, not nearly as bad as they ended up swelling. I definitely wasn't able to put those back on. So, yeah, just the Bleg mitts. And for a couple laps, I went out with the hand warmers and kind of kept them in my Bleg mitts. But I think going through the water obstacles, immediately, made them not work.
It kills
anymore.
them, right?
Yeah, wicked. So that kind of sucks. And then, about halfway through the lap, I would lose feeling in both of my fingers. And then getting back when I was in the pit, and then lose feeling again. And that off and on has definitely made it interesting.
What did you think of the obstacles?
So I really liked some of them. I would like them more if I only had to do them once, like in a regular Tough Mudder. But I really liked, I'm going to mess up some of the names, but Twin Peaks. I did that for the first time. I was really worried about it because I thought you had to jump from one side to the other. And then the volunteers were saying, no, just go a bit lower and try to do a split. I was worried about what that could potentially do. But I made it across that time. The second time I did it, I made it across no problem, went to do that muscle up to get to the end. And both of my arms and both of my legs cramped because it's spraying cold water at you. And so I just went, help. One guy started to help me up, then 2 guys and 3 guys, they couldn't lift me up. So I'm like, just drop me, I don't want to wear them out. And I slipped down and fell for what felt like forever, and then was in the water. And that water was deep, as it should be, because you're going to fall. So that was really scary. And every time after that, I just took the penalty lap. I liked Black Widow. It was pretty simple. Just you're going across the slack lines and you're holding on the slack lines. I always used on the right side, the furthest to the left, because I felt like the most crossed over that way. So even if there was one other person, they were on that one, I was going to wait because I didn't want to fall.
I think that one is going to be a great obstacle for regular Tough Mudders next year.
I think so.
Because it's difficult, but it's almost anyone could do it.
Exactly, and that's what I liked about that. And another one that's very similar to that is Spread Eagle, I think it's called. So what was your approach to that?
I hated Spread Eagle.
Did you?
Okay, Spread Eagle was like 3 cargo straps.
Yep.
Well, really, it wasn't 3. It depended on what time you got there, because the first time I got there were people spread out. There was 18 straps.
Yep.
And there were 5 people on it when I got there.
Oh, wow.
So, spread out. So there's 3 left for me. Well, then I find, I show up by myself, and they're all spread out equally. You could use 6 straps if you wanted.
Yep.
So you're basically just laying on these cargo straps, and you don't want to fall in the water.
Yep.
And you just pull yourself across, and it's real easy, right?
That's one way to do
it. The first half is real easy. Yep. Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, the first half is real easy, and then you got to pull yourself, uphill. So, and then if you have a big guy on the rope behind you,
yep,
then he's pulling you further downhill, so you're going further uphill. It's way worse. Anyway, what was the other technique you saw?
What I learned is just to roll, because it's easy to pull yourself, but it used what little upper body strength I have left. So I just simply kind of rolled on it. And if you roll without using your arms and your legs, you could easily go one way or the other and fall off into the water. So as I would start to roll, take my arm and wrap it underneath, and then finish rolling, and then take my other arm, wrap it underneath, and keep rolling. Okay. And Jesse Bruce went right in front of me. I recommended the rolling. He did well. And he's like, you can go on it while I'm on it. I'm like, hell no, if you fall off, it's going to be my fault. So I let him finish it off, and that seemed to help.
I think that wrapping the arm is the trick, because I tried rolling one time, and so I was just like a sausage, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. I didn't know what I was doing. I saw one guy rolling. Okay, I'll try that.
Yep.
I was on 6 straps rolling, right?
Yep.
But they all bunched together.
Exactly.
So I had 3 straps under my knees and 1 strap under my arms. I was like, this is not the way it's supposed to work.
Yeah, so wrapping with your arms, because if your legs start to dip a little bit, that's fine. You can lift up your legs. But if your front half starts to go under, you're going under. So I really try to wrap and make sure, slow and steady. But even still, when you had to go more uphill, definitely kind of wore me down. And rolling does take longer, but definitely wasn't going for speed at World's Toughest.
What was the worst part of the race for you?
Definitely lumberjacked. Those, I thought there were 5, and then there were 6. And I joked that
I swear they were putting new ones out there in the middle of the night, right?
I'm like, they're adding one every lap. That sucked in itself, but it was compounded by the fact that it was right after skid marked, which was right after T-boned. And the first time I did T-boned, I didn't realize that there was an extra lip you could put your hand under. Once I realized that helped. But I just needed a boost. I went from a knee to a shoulder, and then put my fingers on the inner lip and my elbow on the outer lip, and really just kind of muscled my way up. And that helped a lot. For skid marked, I just needed a lot of help, because going all night, that really, really wore me down. So.
Skid marked usually isn't a real hard obstacle. It's difficult, but it's not undue. You can usually do it solo, right?
Yep.
T-boned, every single time I did it, I was like, I don't think I can do that again. The second time I did it, I was like, oh man, we're 10 miles in. This is going to be a long night.
Yeah.
But I was so glad when they closed those.
Yeah, definitely. And that's something that definitely helped me too, is a lot of the people that gave up early or hid in their tents in the middle of the night, where the course was at its suckiest, they missed out on the quote-unquote easier obstacle laps. So I just kept plowing through, and they closed down Everest, I want to say, seconds before I got to it, because I heard the announcement about them closing obstacles, and I walked to the guy, I'm like, hey, what's the deal? He goes, this is closed, this is closed, this is closed. So I was able to get through Everest, and all those upper body obstacles that we just talked about for 2 laps. So that definitely helps me plug along, because if those are open the whole time, I don't think I would have gotten 50.
I'm afraid people will hear us talking about, oh, they closed those obstacles and think, oh, well, man, that sounds pretty easy to me. The reason they closed those obstacles is because you could die doing them.
Yes, they had, all obstacles had frost on them, but the difference is if you fall off of skid marks, you could really hurt yourself.
And not just frost, like ice.
Yes.
Like your glove would freeze to the metal.
Yeah, I saw, I want to say it was Eli and Nolan. It was 2 people basically testing that obstacle to see if they could open it up again. And so I was like trying to pass that before they opened it back up, but they didn't do that until like my very last lap. So I was grateful for that.
What was the high point of the race for you?
My high point of the race, I would say, I think lap 40. My 40th mile lap, just because I was still feeling good during that lap. It wasn't until the end of that lap where I realized my hands were puffy, and I went to medical, sat down, got warm, that I realized 10 more miles is really going to suck. I also really liked making it through Twin Peaks for the first time, because that was a difficult obstacle. And since I failed Leap of Faith, the gauntlet, every single lap, that definitely added a lot of mileage, as well as the stacks. I skipped that every time, so that was an extra 1.5 miles.
Okay, the stacks.
Yep.
You skipped it 3 times?
Yes.
Any regrets?
No. Especially because one of my friends that actually pitted for her last year, her name's Leah, she said she knocked herself out, and I thought she was kidding. But then I guess she told me she ended up having a bloody nose and everything, and she was done after that. So you fall poorly, and if you're rotating slightly when you jump off, you can't unrotate in midair. So you're at the mercy of gravity. The penalty was long, the penalty was cold, but I don't think I would have jumped even if I got to the top of it.
Before we started talking, you told me that you and Katelyn have an announcement?
Yes. So it's not as exciting as whatever you thought it was, but Katelyn, what did you want to say?
You tell them.
So we were looking at
I keep messing them up.
Messing what up? Oh yeah, she keeps saying tougher. So we saw that toughest has team categories now. So Katelyn's not entirely on board with World's Toughest Mudder, which I don't blame you, especially after this year. But she's thinking about doing team for toughest, which is now 12 miles, which is still a big deal.
12 hours, not hours.
12 hours.
So we figured we could team up and try to do it together and see what happens. And then maybe get a 4-person team for Worlds.
Like a relay team.
Yeah, you kind of put this idea in my head. I was like, I'm not doing this. And then today you were like, so Mike pitted for a friend and then ran. Are you going to run next year? I was like, oh, I've never even thought about running. So
yeah,
this is your fault.
You're welcome.
Kudos to you, by the way, for getting extended podium.
Oh, thank you very much.
Right.
I did an episode last night, and I announced that we got 5th place.
Okay.
And then this morning, I showed up to the brunch, and I found out we got 4th place.
Oh! I was really worried that was going to go the other way.
Yep.
Because that's what would happen to me. Is I thought I got 5th, and I got 6th.
So we're at the bar crawl.
Yes.
And we heard some raucous singing, and I thought it was Team Ireland leading the group in an Irish jaunty,
That would be a good guess.
It was they're over there talking like adults. It's just a happy birthday.
Nice.
So I actually owe Team Ireland a round, because when I thought we were in 5th place, we were in 5th place because we knocked them down to 6th place. So, and they were super cool. Congratulations.
Yep.
So I promised them I'll show up at the bar crawl, I'll buy you guys around.
Yeah.
How did you end up in 4th place?
We got to save some questions for when we interview him, Katelyn.
Never mind.
Wait, what?
But you also, when you ask the highlight of the race, this doesn't count as the race, but today when they said all the 100-milers stand up and Chris Mendoza, who was sitting right in front of me, stood up, applauded him. Everyone that got 75 stand up. Ray Colbo right next to him stood up and started clapping. Anyone that had 50, and I stood up right next to them. I got half of what Chris Mendoza got, but it felt and even Chris Mendoza, I think he specifically said, wow, there's not a lot of them. And I'm I'm special. It meant a lot. So I think that was definitely the highlight of the trip.
If you've never been to World's Toughest Mudder, I would do whatever you can your first year. I'd recommend to come to the brunch afterwards.
Absolutely.
Maybe you missed the stuff before. There's stuff all week, starting Thursday night.
Yeah.
But whatever you can do, come to the brunch on Monday. It's an amazing, amazing capstone to the weekend.
Absolutely, and it definitely gets you more in touch with the community too. Because when they had all those awards, And like this person won, like, oh, I have no idea who that is. I should be more involved. Oh, this person won. Same thing. I didn't know a lot of those people. I knew Blind Pete. Bummer that he couldn't make it to the podium. Too, I was really hoping I'd see him so I could interview him, but like, I don't know what questions to ask him. Like, how did you become blind? Like, it's all fascinating to me, and it's super inspirational as like, I'm not blind, but if I ever do become blind, gotta work a little harder, and there's nothing wrong with that. But
and people like Jesse Strawham or Superman,
yes.
David Tyson Perry.
Yep.
I mean, if they can get 20 miles, 25 miles, then it does not matter what kind of physical shape. I'm not like Mr. Fit.
Yeah.
Like, my training, like I've spent more time on Elite Week than I like getting episodes out than I have on working out like the last 2 weeks, right?
Yep.
But anyone can show up and still like do some damage and challenge yourself.
Absolutely.
And yes, it's a ridiculous, crazy race, and you're not supposed to. Your body's not designed for this.
No.
But it's a great, great experience. I really think almost anyone should or could do it.
Yeah, and then the biggest thing to say is, as you said, like, just come for the brunch. But even if you pit for someone, you'll get half of that experience. And I think pitting first really helped me because when Alex ran the course, he wanted to spend time in the pit and see what that experience was all about. Whereas I already got that experience. I forced myself back on the course because I wasn't here to have fun. You know what I mean? I was there to suffer, and suffer I did. So.
That's really true. The pit is a great experience, and it's its own experience. But every second you're in the pit, you are not getting miles.
Absolutely.
So it's hard to do both well.
And everyone that you ever interviewed has said that, like, small pit times. And I went in, I'm like, just this thing. And she's like, want anything else? Not really. And then, of course, I would start walking towards that giant A-frame cargo net, and I would think, oh, man, I wish I had this. Oh, man, I wish I had that. But it was just too late, so I had to remember to do that next lap.
Mike, any last thoughts on World's Toughest Mudder?
Even if you haven't done this event before, you're going to be a first-timer, highly recommend it. You got to check it out. You're surrounded by greatness. I love being passed by Anne Champagne. I love her. She's adorable. Katelyn gets offended when I call girls adorable.
No, I don't.
How does that look?
No, just the way they're like, she's adorable. No, she's a great athlete. She's quick. She's strong. There's so many other words to describe people.
But like,
especially endurance athletes.
Oh, no, they're definitely, like, incredible, but, like, adorable, too. Like, even, I passed Rhea Colville. I'm like, how you doing, Rhea? Expecting her to say cold, or I'm doing great. And she's like, I have the hiccups. They're really annoying. And it was just so cute, like, with her accent and all.
Every time she passed me on the course, she's like, 5 stars.
Yeah. Oh, she's so great. But, I mean, Jesse Bruce, he was helping me through a lot of the obstacles and just...
Is he adorable?
Yes, he is adorable.
Little Canadian accent.
Little Canadian. I don't know. I just really enjoyed being surrounded by all those athletes out there, and I just had a blast sharing the course with them. And it's not even like, oh, I ran the same beast course as them. You're never going to see them. They're in the front, and then they're done. Here, you're getting passed by them, and sometimes if they're in a low point, you'll pass them, and that's okay. You have the opportunity to help them as much as they have to help you, and that is the amazingly beautiful thing about World's Toughest Mudder.
Any last thoughts?
I think that's all before I say something stupid again.
Katelyn Ritter, Mike's girlfriend, sitting next to him. You looked like you had some thoughts during our conversation.
No, not really. He did take some really quick pits. He did not sit down one time when he came in the pit zone. Like, everybody else was coming in. Jason sat down, and Anna sat down, and Mike's like, nope, not sitting down. Like, we're going out.
He didn't sit down for 24 hours.
Except when he went to medical, where I saw him cry a single tear.
Because she asked me if I wanted to get a chair, and I'm thinking, as a behavioral therapist, control your environment. If I don't have a chair to sit in, well, guess who's not sitting down? And that way, kind of forced me.
No, they put you in, like, a lounge chair. Like, his feet were up, his back was supported, and he cried.
In medical, yeah.
Medical. So, yeah, it was a good experience.
That was the second time Katelyn ever saw me cry.
That's true.
Katelyn, I'm excited to see you and Mike on a Toughest Mudder course next year. Probably Philadelphia?
I think so.
Would you guys travel to another one, maybe?
We thought about going down to Dallas to race with OCR Talk, but we think it's the same weekend as the Killington Spartan race.
Nah, you know.
So we'll see where we end up.
Do you guys run Killington every year?
Wait, what?
Do you run Killington every year?
Oh, no.
Katelyn Ritter, second chance for any last thoughts?
No, I don't think so. I do have a question, but I can't ask you until we're on our podcast.
You can ask me now.
How did you end up in 4th place?
Well, we ran more miles than 5th place and less miles than 3rd place.
I I know, but you thought you were in 5th place. Like, what changed?
So there were unofficial results on the website.
Okay.
So the first place was Lindsay's Angels, Ryan Atkins, Lindsay Webster, Ryan Woods, and Brian Gwiski. Second place was USA 1.
Uh-huh.
Third place is USA 2. Fourth place is us, USA 3. Fifth place is Team Ireland.
Okay.
I think what happened is Team Canada, I don't know what their name is, but the guys from Northman race, or North, I don't really know. With the red and black jackets they all came in. They ran more miles than us.
Okay.
But they left at like 10 p.m.
Oh, yeah, I remember you saying that.
And you do not qualify for prize money unless you are a finisher, which means you finish a lap after 8 a.m. before 1:30 p.m.
Yep.
So I think they were ahead of us. I don't know how many miles they did, but I think they were ahead of us, and because they didn't finish, we all got bumped up one.
Good for you guys. 4th place is big.
We're super excited. We didn't beat anybody. We just outlasted a lot of people.
That's true. That's what Mike did.
This is a war of attrition, and you beat them by staying out there. So you absolutely did earn it.
So getting $1,000 to run 35 miles is ridiculous, but it's $250 per person. It won't even cover the cost of our Airbnb for the weekend, but it's super cool. Like, it's more about the title, right? Fourth place, extended. Now, I told my wife about it, and she's like, because we all ran together. It's like all 4 of us. It's like a reunion for us. We don't see each other. We all used to work together, and we're roommates 20 years ago. So it's for us, it's like catching up. How your wife, how's your kids? So my wife heard about it. She's like, so why don't you guys do the 2 and 2 thing? Because you've gotten 3rd place? I'm like, babe, we're not that team. So.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
But
Wait,
anyway.
Are you going to podium next year or go for your 50 miles?
We're going to do exactly the same thing we did this year. I would say, okay, so every other podcast host, except me, I think, and you, Katelyn.
Oh, yeah.
has a 50-mile bib, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Now, I am the only one with the podium finish, or extended podium finish.
That's true.
Other than Evan Perperis, which I feel like he's like a level above us, like kind of almost like Heather Bodie's starting to get to, like a level above us. So I don't really count Evan.
Okay.
Heather, I'm still like, she's better than me, but not like Evan Perperis better than me. So I don't have my 50-mile bib yet, but I got the podium, which I'm thrilled about.
That's awesome.
And I'll get that 50-mile bib before I die. So
Mike and I will pit for you when you do it.
Aw.
Fantastic pick, Rue. That helped me keep going, too.
That dry robe would have, if I didn't have that, I would have froze out there.
You guys both have a awesome-looking World's Toughest Podcast dry robe.
We do.
I guess when I took it off in between laps, it froze to the ground. So that was kind of fun. So they had to wear it while I was away to keep it warm. It's kind of funny.
Yep.
We didn't even mention you guys have your own podcast,
yes,
Obstacle Running Adventures.
That's right.
And Katelyn, what do you guys talk about on your podcast?
Everything. Mainly
Star Wars? What? Everything?
No, not Star Wars. Did you say Stan Lee died?
Thanks for bringing this down. I had no idea.
Wasn't he
Spoiler
part of
alert.
Star Wars?
I haven't read the news in like 48 hours.
What was I saying?
I'm very sad about your brain. Oh my gosh, Katelyn. I'm glad you didn't open the interview with that.
We cover mostly Northeast events and a lot of Mike and I bickering.
Deaths of major celebrities.
Yes.
All right, we better wrap this up. Good talking with you guys.
Yes, thank you, Will. Great to see you again.
I know. It was nice meeting you again.
Mike and Katelyn, thanks much.
I hate that you say that.
Why?
It's just like, thanks much, like you're missing something, but I know it's your thing.
Thanks so much.
Yeah.
It's because of the grammar thing?
I think so.
What do you do when people write there, and there wrong?
That makes me crazy,
It
too.
makes me insane.
Insane.
All right, so what's your name and where are you from?
I'm Chris Wilkins and I'm from the UK.
And how was your race?
Oh, man. Special. I absolutely loved it. Like, it was such an experience. Like, coming over here has just been an adventure. Like, as I say, like, I cannot speak enough good about like the American guys. You guys have been so cool. Like, we've been blown away by the Orphan 10 and speaking to people that have driven like 16 hours from Texas, like double the length of our country and stuff. Like, and that's just bonuses on top of like amazing new obstacles and crazy courses and silly amounts of ice and things like that. So
this is your first World's Toughest Mudder?
Yeah, first WTM, like loved it. It's one of those things like, you know, when you've done a marathon, you're like, oh man, what am I doing with my life? And then you sit there and like the brunch today, you watch the glory sink in, you go, maybe I could do another one again. And then before you know it, you're sort of considering flights and stuff like that. But
like a week from now, you'll be like, you know, you'll forget the bad times and you'll be like, remember those good times? Remember that one obstacle, we got over it? So yeah, you got to let the muscles heal up a little bit and you'll sign up again.
Oh, massively. Like we were just saying earlier to like guys we met in here today, like stacked. Like when it came on, like the water and the heights thing, I'm not too bad with, but then to tell guys back home when we're sitting in a pub in England, when they'll be like, "Oh, it's only 40 foot," but you're like at night in a wetsuit, full of mud, fatigued, tired. It completely blows your senses in your mind. It's something that's crazily different, but once again, like jumping off that was such a buzz, and then you're running again in the middle of the night and you're going, oh, this is brilliant, it's wicked.
What was your favourite part of the course?
There was, what was the one with the ropes, which
Twin Peaks,
that was cool. I think all the cables were cool. I mean, generally it was also special being Worlds. There was so many like different little tweaks and things like that. I can't specifically say one bit that I hated, but then even the steeplechase. What was the ones where people were going over with the horse riding? The lumberjacks. Everyone hated that, but in a weird way, I've done so many pull-ups. I was like, I've got this, so I don't mind it.
How many miles did you get?
I hit 50, so I was stoked. Like that was the goal from the get-go, but did not expect the cold.
And this is your first World's Toughest, so I'm sure you've heard, though, those were like a hard 50 compared to like Vegas.
Yeah, I mean, I run in Vibrams, so I mean, when I saw the ground at Vegas, I was thinking, like Vibrams, everyone always points them out, and I've been wearing them since 2011. Everyone's still shocked by them, but I still sit there and think like, oh, if Vegas, that ground would have screwed me, I would have been in bits. But mud, rain, water, they drain off quick, they're nice and light, they're good for how I run, so I was like, oh, I've got a good advantage here. Like.
We actually saw each other on the course at one of the obstacles.
Oh, mate, absolutely hilarious. I mean, to be honest, the professionalism you show, like, I saw you hanging, I can't remember what obstacle it was, I wish I could, hanging from an obstacle, getting covered in water in a grey wetsuit, go, hey man! That's my American accent, it's awful. Hey man, what are those in your feet? And I was like, on the ground, looking up tired, going, oh, they're Vibrams. Are they good? I was like, yeah, they're good. How's your feet feel? Yeah, they're fine. And I was thinking, like, this dude's off the chain. He needs to have a day off because he's doing a world's toughest mud, a 24-hour race, and he's still trying to interview me, soaking wet, one hand hanging off. I'm like, this is brilliant. I just thought, I'm definitely following your podcast for life now after seeing this. It's fantastic. Like,
I just don't, it was the middle of the night. We were probably 12 or 13 hours in, and I'd never seen Vibrams that late on the course. Like, I mean, I've seen them on the course, right? But usually, well, you know what though, in my defense, it was in Vegas. So in Vegas, they probably bail by then. Yeah, they're good.
I'd love, like, this could be my secret claim to fame. Like, you see lots of guys, I'll tell you what, I don't want to be too big time because you see amputees and guys in wheelchairs, people with dogs, like, running the course. But, like, I didn't see anyone, I did the whole thing. I had multiple pairs, but in Vibrams. I didn't see anyone else out there throughout the entire night in Vibrams. So, Chris Wilkins, 2018, Hall of Fame Vibram wearer. That's me, right?
First place in the Vibrams division.
Yeah, not good for age anymore. I can't cling on to that. That's what I'm going for.
That's hilarious. Did you last all 24 hours?
Yeah. We went through, like, basically me and my good friend John here, like, what we did was I did 7 laps, took a little pit when it got cold, did another couple, and then obviously I think the 8 a.m. was the cut-off to then get that band and get your manly stamp, and we were through.
So middle of the night, it's a ghost town out there.
Yeah.
You're not alone, but you feel alone. There's a lot less people than there were.
Yeah.
Were there any like dark moments, or was there a low point of the race for you?
It's really, really odd. My low, like that sort of like 19 mile hitting the wall in the marathon, like my low in an odd way was 6 to 8 miles in. 6 to 8 hours in, sorry, because I sort of knew that there was still a mountain to climb. But when I got past 12 and I knew I'd done like the majority of my work, so a lot of guys were saying at your toughest, for example, to get the contender status we ran 30 miles. I wanted to do that before 12, and I'd done 35 before 12. I was like, oh sweet, I've only got 15. I just thought, if everything goes wrong, if I'm in absolute tatters, I've got 15 miles to do.
Sure.
And I'm still good to go.
Your hands look a little swollen from yesterday.
Mate, I love it. Everyone, I've seen some dude with a black eye, people hopping along, and I'm the only person walking in here that looks like he's had his. If you've seen Dodgeball, and you know, like Dwight Goodman punched his crotch up, it looks like I've done that with my hands. And I'm walking around, and everyone's like holding beers, and I'm the weirdo that's drinking with two like hands, and I've got
You
no
have two
knuckles.
hands wrapped around your beer, like a baby with a sippy cup.
Once again, scaring me with like my strong hand. Like that's me right now. That's me right now. I can't believe it. I'm meant to be representing England, and I can't even hold a microphone or a pint properly. Like, it's not good, man.
So, are you coming back for 2019?
I'll have to speak to the wife.
Negotiations are ongoing.
But I'll tell you what, like, if I had a tick list of what I expected and what I'd like, I'd now have to create a new one for how impressed I've been with, like, I say this, like, honestly, America is just the friendliest place. I've loved it. And everything's massive out here when you're from the UK as well. Cars, food, roads, it's crazy, it's wicked.
What's the best part of America for you?
People, hands down. Like, I always say this, like, when I went to university, it wasn't too rock and roll, but like we had a crappy bar, but it was the people that made that bar. And then you could go to the best bar in London, but if you weren't surrounded by your friends, it wouldn't mean anything. And I think if you look at the Tough Mudder community, it is the epitome of that. Like, when we were at the brunch today, I actually, like, you can see people welling up, and I was just like, oh, I get that now. Like, you know, people making the sacrifice to support others, and I really felt proud to be part of that. Like, speaking to yourself, like, we've listened to your podcasts on the drives to Tough Mudders, and just, oh yeah, that's cool, that makes sense. But then to meet you and see how cool you are and the rest of the guys, it really, honestly, it hits home. It's lovely. It really is nice.
It's a real powerful part of the company. Like, Tough Mudder can't. We're all just people, right? Tough Mudder can't control us, but for whatever reason, we've all chosen to kind of gravitate around this race, especially World's Toughest Mudder. Yeah. And I don't know what it is about World's Toughest Mudder, but it's the combined suffering where we're all going through it together, and it just builds a community.
I mean, even like when Merrill got on the stage today at the brunch, and they spoke to the Tough Mudder staff. There's certain things you can fake and put on and go, oh, it's been really emotional working with you. Those guys were cut up not to be sponsored in the event next year. And I was like, that's powerful stuff. And people can fake emotion and laughs and whatever like that. But, I mean, when they were saying about their staff and the banners they'd done, and that meant something to those Tough Mudder staff. And, you know, when you see Coach and the other dude, yeah, man, like that. I mean, it's phenomenal. Like they it's got a place in their heart, and that you can see that.
You know, Merrill. That's a great point. Merrill is a company, right? They're here to make money.
Yeah.
But they have legitimately good people.
Yeah.
Like the banners. They make banners for everyone who hits 100 miles.
Yeah.
Tough Mudder doesn't ask them to do that.
No.
That's because of a few employees who are genuinely good people, and they're like, hey, this is a special thing we can do.
Yeah.
And they've done things for members of the community that I found out about. People tell me about stuff. And then I call Merrill. I'm like, hey, you want to talk about this? And they're like, no. We didn't do that for publicity. We did that just to help that person out. We don't want to talk about it.
Oh, man.
And legitimately good things that most companies would do and kind of be like, hey, if you want to mention this, Merrill is not like, they're like legitimately good people.
Yeah, there's no plugging or anything. I mean, as I say, like, that guy, even though he said, like, Merrill won't be sponsoring the event next year, we don't know how. And I was like, how don't you know how? You work for the company. But he was like, I'm going to be back. And everyone's like, yeah. And I was like, normally you'd think, like, if someone was saying, oh, we're pulling sponsorship, they'd be like, oh, screw you, like, you're leaving us without any money. But they were just like, oh, no, I'll be back. This means something to me. We've created something. And I just said, like, what I don't understand is that obviously Tough Mudder had Under Armour sponsorship, and that was pretty cool. But Merrill, everyone's wearing all-out crushes. Everyone's got, like, Merrill stash and gear on that. So they've made money out of it. So for them to pull their sponsorship, like, part of me's sad that Merrill go because they've done a good job. But then part of me's excited to say, if you're pulling sponsorship and you've made money, who's now coming in? And that's my little positive brain trying to, you know, spin a negative round. So. And
then Merrill is still going to be, I think, active in OCR. I know they've talked to me about next year, even though we're not married to Tough Mudder. My podcast is not married to Tough Mudder. We can do whatever we want with Merrill. Still get, you know, so I don't know what's going to happen in 2019, but I don't think Merrill is going away. I just think they're not going to be officially affiliated with Tough Mudder.
Yeah, it just seems odd, as I said. Like, I mean, there's 1,500 runners, 1,600 runners. I don't know how many. 1,200 done the WTM, and you sit there, and as I say, it's silly, but like your mind goes to funny places when you're running that event. And I wear Vibrams, and I'm looking at everyone wearing all that crushes, and I'm thinking, all I'm seeing is orange shoes, that little Tough Mudder logo on, and I'm like, that's just one race. And then what about the Tough Mudders, the Tougher Mudders, and all the training people do? Like, that message has hit home. And they've done well of that, and they're still pulling. So you don't know what's going on, do you?
And you know, there's probably stuff that we don't even know about. So
yeah.
So what would you say to somebody maybe in the UK who's thinking about this crazy race over in the United States, and they're like, oh, it's expensive. You got to pay a plane ticket, the race ticket. It's a lot of money. It's an investment.
Yeah.
For this weekend that you spend, I'm sure. What would you say to that guy who's thinking about it but not sure?
I think like half of me wants to be like a rock and roll star. So, hey, you got to do it, man. Go get it. Like, you know, it's one thing I've heard all week. But I think the other thing is you've got to want it. Like, I mean, I've done Tough Mudders from the get-go, from like 2013 in Kettering in Northampton in England. And as soon as I done my first one, I never forget it. I said, if someone gives me a sandwich and a fresh T-shirt, I'll get back out there. And then 2014, I did a couple. 2015, I got my season pass, and then I knew I wanted it. And from then, I've always wanted it. And life's different for me now because I've got a beautiful wife back home. I've got a great job as a personal trainer, and I've got a beautiful 4-month-old son called George, and I miss him like crazy. So, not to be that guy, but to leave my family and like take money away from them on a family holiday I could potentially go to come out here and do something, it has to be special. And I would love to say to you and to everyone else, 2019 I'm there, but that's selfish of me. But I mean, I would like, you know, if finances allowed and I could raise sponsorship like I had this year, meet people like your good self, I'd be here in a heartbeat. Honestly, I've had such a special time. It's really good.
Yeah, I appreciate the honesty because I have a wife and kids, and they're back in California right now, and I miss them. We just got a new puppy.
Yeah.
You know, they're sending pictures of my 5-year-old daughter holding a puppy. They're having movie night watching Beverly Hills Chihuahua while I'm off running through the cold for 24 hours. I would much rather. I'm like, what am I doing here?
I mean, in my dark time, in a really crazy way, and this makes me sound absolutely psychotic, all I could think about was when I come in from work, and my dog Ralph runs up to me, and he's a Cocker Spaniel, so he's jumping up going, hey, you're home. And then the cat's just like asleep in a sombrero in the kitchen because that's how it rolls in my house. And then my son, he's just about to go to bed, so I quickly see him, and then I give my wife a hug, and then we sit down and start talking about the day. That was rolling in my mind constantly. And it's so strange. I was running through the woods, and I was just like, I've got to stop thinking about this. And that was my low, and I realised that, but it was then motivated me later on. But as I say to you, it's weird what your brain does in these 24-hour events. Like, you can go to some dark places, but then you can go to some drug-taking higher places that you never knew your mind could unlock. So it's fantastic.
What was it like crossing the finish line?
Oh, man. I'm going to try and say this without swearing, but epic is epic, cosmic, mind-blowing. Like, as I say, like, John's probably my best friend back home, and we had the Union Jack in our hands. I mean, you guys love the Stars and Stripes out here, but...
Sorry, I'm going to jump in here. When he crossed that line, I never heard a man scream and shout. It was like the world had ended. He went, ah! Like a war cry.
Cross the finish line.
Yeah, when he crossed that line, like a war cry. We had the UK flag in our hand. I think it was Clinton, who was commentating at the time. He was like, yeah, UK guys, UK. And he didn't know what was going on. He was there, he was going, yeah! I can't swear, but yeah, he was going crazy, absolutely crazy. The emotions going through this man at that point, without this world. And to be honest, I screamed and shouted, but my first reaction was like, he's a happy man. Strangely enough, he's a happy man. I don't know why I thought that. But no, I thought, right, let's get that bib. Let's get that 50 bib. We worked hard here, let's get that. And that
it's weird because you'd like to, like, you know, people on social media, like Instagram and Facebook, like, they have sent me so many supportive messages, and you know what you're going through, but like, I just thought, that's the moment, that's the shoelace tied, it's signed, sealed, done, delivered, and you're just like, we're finished. And like, to how I felt crossing the start line on my last lap, going, oh, one more lap, and then mid-lap you're going over lumberjacked, and I was saying words, once again, I cannot say on this podcast, and I'm like, oh man. And then, to get to the end, it's just elation, it's better than anything, like, and that's that weird little sense that when you're freezing your ass off in the night and you're going, oh man, I'm frostbitten, I'm crazy, like I could have hypothermia, my hands are swollen, look like a blubber whale, like, you forget all that and you see a little bit of the glory and you go like, that's pretty special. And I said to John earlier, like, it really does inspire me and other people to think like, if I said to you right now, like, your life on it, can you go out and run like 50 to 60 miles? You'd go, sorry? Are you drunk? Are you insane? Are you high? You'd be like, no, like, and it's just absolutely, it's absolutely crazy. You could never think. I mean, I don't run. I've run like 50-mile weeks, and everyone's going, "Oh, it's really good, man. Well done, great training." But to run that in one sitting in 24 hours,
I think one thing you can really say: there's nothing else in life that can compare to any moment out on that course. When you're pushing yourself, you're down, you're tired, you just want to quit. You look around you, everybody's pushing you, everyone's going, get it, man, push on, man. Like every day, all night long, everyone's there for you. And that feeling, when you finish, you're done, you get across that line, I can't explain. I can't even explain how it feels. You have to come out and do a world's toughest mudder. It's the only way to find out.
I really think, I know it costs more for you guys to come over and visit us, like a substantially amount. But for like people in the UK, if you don't have to come every year, just come once.
Yeah.
And then maybe you come, 3 years later. But I think you're right. You have to want it, and you have to be prepared. Because if you come over and you're not ready, it's a waste of a lot of money and a lot of time.
That's what I mean. If you train all year, like for us, we train all year for it. We pushed hard for it. You push through the niggles. You have injuries. You go through all that. I know you yourself. You had a knee injury, didn't you, last year? Put you out. We're all the same. I had a groin injury, which I didn't think I was going to be fit for, but lucky enough, got to the event and pushed through. So.
And that's one thing I would say. Like, I thought once again, like, you don't want to take it away from Tough Mudder, because we do understand it. America is a colossal place. Like, I mean, you look at Texas, and I think you can fit Great Britain, so like, England, Ireland, Scotland, Wales, like, into Texas 10 times. So when dudes say they've driven 16 hours, you're like, oh, I believe that. But at the same time, like, when you then say, you selfishly say, like, when the Tough Mudder was like, what can we do for you? And this was at the briefing at the race, I was like, but in Europe, like that. And you start saying that on course, like, would you go to Europe? And then, like, I love it. Like, Americans are just saying, like, oh, that's a nice excuse, because I've wanted to go to Venice, or I've wanted to go to Italy or Spain or France. And you're just like, I half want to plant the seed in Tough Mudder. Atlanta's been awesome, and I could see why they'd have it here again. But at the same time, I could see why WTM would say, let's do a European one. Like, you guys have got the Walmart where you can buy the kit, but we've got Tesco's back home. I'm sure you could do the same, like, sort of thing like that. So
I would love to do a World's Toughest in Europe. I did Toughest Mudder Berlin last year.
Yeah.
I didn't do Toughest Mudder UK, but my family, we vacationed in England and France last year.
Yeah.
And we loved England. I would love it in Europe.
I just think it's one of those things. Like, I was in Croatia earlier this year, and I bumped into loads of American guys that travel over, and they were like, oh man, we've been on a plane for like 9 hours, then we had a transfer for 2 hours, and had a bus ride which was like 2 hours, and it's just a crazy amount of time travelling. They're like, where have you come from? I'm like, 2 hours that way, buddy. They just couldn't understand that. So Europe's on our doorstep. So all I'm saying is, like, if you could ever find your way back to the WTM staff, like, Europe's a big place. Like.
Yeah, they say that over here, they say that in America, 100 years is a long time and 100 miles is a long distance. Or no, I'm sorry, in America, they say this is where I edit. They say that in America, 100 years is a long time, and in Europe, 100 miles is a long distance. Like,
I couldn't believe that.
Over there, I went over to England, and our tour guide's like, oh yeah, in 1222, this king was doing this. And I'm like, 1220, the world didn't start until 1776. What are you talking about?
No, there's a guy across from one of the pubs I'm regularly drinking, and he's got a house that was made in the 1600s. This awesome cottage, and it's not straight. It's on the wonk. I can't say it in a better terminology than that. And the joke always is, you drink till the house is straight, then you know you're drunk. So I think there's certain things like that. Like when we see buildings, everything's new out here and everything's big, and it's lovely to have the tradition, but then it's lovely to have, like we just said, there's a gadget for everything in the States. Like, so, but as I say, such a cool place. We've loved it over here.
Any last thoughts? World's Toughest Mudder?
You know what I'd actually say in a really corny way? Once again, I'd just say thank you to everyone, yourself included in this, like, for just being made welcome. Because once again, you think people are, like, seriously big time when you hear them on podcasts, and you just think, oh, that guy must be a millionaire, this, that, and the other. And the first thing you said to me before I even recognised who you were, you said, "Hi, man, how you doing?" I was like, "Oh, cool, how are you?" And you just like, "Oh, we've been listening to him," like, and then so that's all I'd honestly say. That's my main takeout of my whole tour and trip here, would be how friendly, welcoming, from in Walmart queues to the orphan tent to your good self. honestly, I can't thank everyone enough. So high five America, really.
That's awesome. Thanks so much. All right, say your name and where you're from.
My name is Kenneth Rutter. I'm from Pasadena, California.
Can you spell your last name for me?
Rotter.
Do you go by Kenneth or Kenny?
Kenny. Very much a Kenny.
Okay.
I'm all about Kenny.
Kenny, how was your race?
My race was hard, but it was good. I feel I'm so happy with what I got.
So how many miles did you get?
I did 40 miles. The goal is 50, so 80% of my goal, but the course was brutal, and I just feel real good about it.
What was your favorite part?
Honestly, my favorite part was I made a friend on the course named Lucy, and I believe it was in between miles 4 and 5 or 5 and 6 where we just had a mini dance-off before we started our next loop, and it was awesome. She's an incredible competitor. It was just a wonderful experience just to have that much energy close to midnight.
What did you think about the weather?
The weather didn't do me in. I had an extra thick wetsuit, so I actually wasn't too terribly cold. But the weather it took a lot of people out, and I was bummed to see that. But it wasn't that big of a concern for me because I had over prepared my wetsuit.
How'd you over prepare?
Honestly, it's because I'm cheap, and the wetsuit that was on sale was a 5'3", and everybody told me, you only want a 2'3" or a 3'2", just so you have the ability to move. So my core was toasty the entire time.
So being a cheapskate kind of paid off for you.
It absolutely did.
What kind of gloves did you wear?
I wore the Black Mitts, which were great. They kept my hands super warm and super wet.
Super wet?
Yeah. They just, my hands didn't dry, so it was a blessing and a curse. But I think overall the warmth was better than the dryness for Funky Monkey, Gauntlet, any of the grip obstacles.
I'm sorry, I'm blanking out on something. You and I met on the course. Where was that? Where's the first time? Several times, actually. What was the first time?
I want to say we met first going down the end of one of the laps towards Mutterhorn. And that was the first time we got a chance to meet. You were running with a partner. I don't remember his name for the life of me. I'm sorry.
No, you know what? I should have phrased it better because we actually met at the dinner, the community dinner on Friday, and then I saw you on the course, and I actually introduced you to my team. One of my team, I don't know who it was. One of my teammates, like, hey, this is Candidate Kenny.
Yes, Candidate Kenny. I love that nickname. Makes me super happy that people know me as that. Yeah, I don't know if I need to go more into that, but one of the things is, it's one of those things where whenever you look at the world around you and you say, oh, somebody should change that, you need to recognize that you're somebody. And a couple years ago, I recognized that I was somebody. I didn't like the way things were going in my community, so I got up off my butt and ran for office. And that's how the nickname came, and it stuck.
You know, we don't really get into politics on the show, but I think one thing we can all agree on is, I think Gandhi said, like be the change you want to see in the world.
Absolutely.
And if you're like, someone should clean up the trash around here. Well, yeah, you're right. You found a problem. So fix it. That's a great. I think all of us can agree on that.
No. And the one thing I've always said is, if people took out into the world the way they are on a Tough Mudder course, the world would be a much better place. I have friends on the course. We differ absolutely on opposite sides of the spectrum politically, but on the course, I will. If they need help with something, I will listen to them and I will give them help, and I will give them a hand. I will give them a knee if they need help over something. If they need help getting psyched up, and I think the world would be a better place if we really took that to heart and we just listened, and then gave people what they needed. Yeah, and so it's Tough Mudder is absolutely what the world could be if it just grew to be a global phenomenon.
You know what? I totally agree. I think one of the great things that I like about Tough Mudder is that, for a few hours on a Saturday, you can go out, you can challenge yourself, and every other person out there on a course, you're all on the same page. You're all trying to do the same thing. You're all working toward the same goal, and there's no animosity. It's like, hey, let's conquer this obstacle together.
No, absolutely. And the one thing I love about World's Toughest Mudder is no matter what your level is, no matter what your goals were, from 12 noon Saturday until 12 noon Sunday, 1:30 Sunday, technically, you gave everything you had to that course in the capacity that you had to give it. Yeah, everybody wakes up Monday and we're like, oh, we could have done 5 more miles. And that's what makes us crazy. Because we look back at something amazing, incredible we did. Whether you did 5 miles or whether you're Chris Mendoza and did 100 miles, you gave that course absolutely 100% of what you had in you at that time.
You did 40 miles. I did 35 miles. We both wanted 50 miles going in. But if you think of 35 miles, like think of where you live, your house, and think of something 35 miles away, you ran that far. And you stopped in every mud puddle on the way. And you climbed over every tree and every wall on the way. That's a long way.
No, I work 40 miles away from where I live. So the fact that I just ran to work blows my mind because I've taken people, like, I live in California. I've gone a couple of road trips to Vegas. I'll take people from my house to Vegas, and I'll be like, oh, this is where I got on the freeway. This is where I get off. And everybody in LA is astounded. So the fact that I just ran that is pretty ridiculous considering it was sub-freezing temperatures and there was a lot of obstacles in my way.
And still, we both want more. Like, I don't know about you. I'm thinking about next year. Like, hey, make a few tweaks, get 5 or 10 easy. Maybe I can push it out to 50 next year.
I'm so excited for next year. I don't know in what capacity I'm going to be next year because I have to go through a couple surgeries. But I know I'm either going to be there running, I'm going to be there pitting, or I'm going to be there volunteering. I got to throw props out to Mike Jones. I was lucky enough to be with him on his 50th volunteer shift, which is absolutely incredible. It's almost more incredible than a 50th Tough Mudder because he's out there for so much longer than I am. And he's such an amazing person. And to see him there, he is world's toughest volunteer because he was out there for over 24 hours. He's amazing.
Mike's the guy, you recognize him by his large sombrero he wears every time.
Yes, absolutely. And I know they don't get a lot of recognition. They don't get a headband. They don't get a T-shirt. But there was about 5 medics who were out there for the full 24 hours. World's toughest medics. They were absolutely incredible. I hope some of them hear this, and I hope they know how much we appreciate them.
Was this your first time at World's Toughest?
It was my first time at World's Toughest.
What advice would you give somebody thinking about running next year?
2 wetsuits. One of the things that did me in was at 4:30 in the morning, I was just sick and tired of being cold and wet. And if I had been put into a nice, fresh wetsuit, I think I could have gotten that extra couple miles. Over-prepare. Don't, anything you need, add 20%. Snacks, food, gear. Just, if you have the money is worth it. I went out last minute Friday night and spent another $200 at REI buying more neoprene. And I know I'm super blessed and super fortunate to be able to just swipe a credit card and not worry about it. And I know a lot of people don't have that. But if you have the ability, over-prepare. You know what? Get that super cheap, extra thick wetsuit on Amazon for $60 if you have it to spare. It's going to be well worth it. Also, a sleeping bag pad. I had a sleeping bag. I did not have the pad. And the most expensive sleeping bag in the world will not help you if it's next to the ground. If there's no insulation there, you'll just freeze.
World's Toughest is not a cheap race. It's about $500, depending on when you sign up. Maybe a little cheaper, maybe a little more. Some people are like, oh man, another $200 for a wetsuit or whatever. But if you don't invest that little extra, you could be flushing the whole ticket price down the toilet.
No, absolutely. And I recognize where we come from to be able to run these races. And it's if you are in a position to do this race, do it to the best of your ability and do it right. Save that little extra, buy that extra wetsuit, buy that extra gear. And that's really gonna make a difference between, my 40 miles and my 50 miles. If I had that extra wetsuit, and right now I'm thinking to myself, what wouldn't I give to get that extra 10 miles? I'm looking around and I see everybody in their brown bibs, and I'm kicking myself. I'm absolutely kicking myself.
You're going to carry that with you for 12 months.
For 12 months.
Kenny, any last thoughts on World's Toughest Mudder?
Such an amazing experience. It was, if you are thinking about doing it, do it. Prepare your pit. Your pit crew is your lifeline. I owe every single one of my miles to my wonderful pit crew, my girlfriend Morgan. She was my lifeline. She had everything prepared for me. She even asked, because I didn't know what I was going to need, but I gave her a basic idea of what I was going to need every lap, and she took that and she ran with it, and she made sure I was extra prepared. She had a binder. She had a binder of what I needed and what she thought I would need, and so she was just such. I can't even tell you how much I love this woman. She's incredible, but she was there with me every step of the way, and so have a pit that is as invested in you as you are.
Kenny, thanks much.
Not a problem. Thank you so much.
So good.
Special thanks to J.D. Allen, Mike Stefano, Katelyn Ritter, Chris Wilkins, John Cheek, and Kenny Rotter. Well done. I hope to see all of you next year in Atlanta. I hope to see all of you next year in Atlanta also. You have homework. 3 things. 1, leave a review on Apple Podcasts. If you already have, leave it on Amazon. It's Christmas time. Come on. Number 2, text TOUGH to the number 22828. Then go to mudrunguy.com and vote for Overcome and Run as Best Podcast and Jack Goris as Best Photographer. I will talk with you soon. Go spend time with someone you love.
Yeah, that's right.